The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their special seats, each one designed for their particular body type. The bird-like Altarians perched on their metal branches, while the slug-like Neptunians rested in their water tanks. Everyone was talking, but their voices were quiet and worried. Ambassador Cathara stood at the center podium, her blue skin gleaming under the chamber lights. She was tall and thin like all Zephars, with 4 arms and eyes that looked like black diamonds. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of an empire that had conquered half the known galaxy. "The Outer Rim worlds now belong to the Zephyrian Empire," she announced. Her words echoed through the massive chamber. "Any attempt to interfere will be met with complete destruction." 12 worlds had fallen in just 3 months. The Zephyrians moved like a storm across space, taking whatever they wanted. Their ships were faster than anything else in the galaxy. Their weapons could turn entire cities into glass. Their soldiers were trained from birth to fight and win. The conquered worlds were not empty rocks. They had been home to billions of people who now worked as slaves in Zephyrian mines. Children were taken from their families and trained to serve their new masters. Entire cultures disappeared as the Zephyrians erased local languages and customs. Admiral Sarah Chun sat quietly in the human section of the chamber. She was small compared to most of the other representatives, with gray hair and calm brown eyes. Humans had only joined the galactic community 200 years ago. Most of the other species still thought of them as children playing with adult technology. When Cathara finished her speech, the chamber fell silent. The Zephyrians had never lost a major battle. Their empire stretched across thousands of star systems. Their technology was so advanced that some species thought they were like gods. Chun stood up, slowly, and walked to the speaker's platform. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet hall. She was not wearing the fancy robes that other ambassadors liked. Instead, she wore a simple military uniform with no decorations except for her rank insignia. "The Zephyrian Empire has made a mistake," Chun said. Her voice was not loud, but everyone could hear her clearly. "They think that power gives them the right to take whatever they want. They think that advanced technology makes them better than everyone else. They are wrong." A ripple of surprised whispers ran through the chamber. No one had ever spoken to the Zephyrians like this before. Cathara's forearms twitched with anger, but she said nothing. Chun continued. "Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We will defend the Outer Rim worlds. We will protect the innocent people you have enslaved. And we will show you that there are things more important than having the biggest guns." The chamber exploded with noise. Some representatives cheered, but most looked terrified. The Centaurian ambassador actually fainted and had to be carried out by his assistants. Even Earth's few alive seemed shocked by what they had just heard. Cathara stymied. Eyes glittered with what might have been amusement. "You would challenge the Zephyrian Empire? You whose species still uses primitive fusion engines? You whose largest ships would barely qualify as escort vessels in our fleet?" "Yes," Chun said simply. The Zephyrian ambassador laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. "Your bravery is admirable, but bravery cannot stop plasma cannons. Your ships cannot outrun our fastest scouts. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. You have no allies strong enough to help you, and no technology advanced enough to threaten us." Chun smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a happy smile. "You know very little about human technology, Ambassador. And you know even less about what humans are capable of when someone threatens innocent people. Then you choose death," Cathara said. "Very well. The Zephyrian Empire is not without mercy. We give you 1 standard week to reconsider. Withdraw your foolish challenge, and we will allow your species to continue existing as our servants. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why no one challenges the Empire." 1 week, Chen agreed. That should be enough time. Enough time for what? Cathara demanded. For you to realize you made a terrible mistake, Chen replied. The human admiral turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. Behind her, the representatives burst into frantic discussions. Some called Chen brave, others called her insane. A few quietly began making plans to evacuate their worlds before the Zephyrians decided to punish humanity's allies. Cathara remained at the podium, watching the chamber doors where Chen had disappeared. For the first time in her long career, she felt something she did not recognize. It might have been uncertainty, or it might have been fear. She pushed the feeling aside. The humans had sealed their fate. Later, in her private quarters aboard the Zephyrian command ship, Cathara reviewed the intelligence files on humanity one more time. They were a young species, barely past their first nuclear wars. Their expansion into space had been impressive, but their technology lagged behind every major power. Their military was small and untested against serious opposition. The file showed pictures of human ships. They looked crude and angular compared to the elegant curves of Zephyrian vessels. Their weapons were simple kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. Their shields were weak, and their armor was thick metal plates instead of advanced energy barriers. Cathar could not understand why the humans thought they could win. Perhaps they were hoping other species would join them, but the galaxy had learned not to challenge the Empire. Perhaps they had some secret weapon, but Zephyrian intelligence networks were very good at finding secrets. The most likely explanation was that humans were simply too young to understand how outmatched they were. They would learn, she decided. The lesson would be brief and painful, but they would learn. She sent a message to Fleet Admiral Zarthel, commanding the Empire's greatest battle fleet. The message was short. Prepare for war against humanity. Total victory expected within 1 standard day. The response came back quickly. Understood. It will be our pleasure to teach these children their place in the galaxy. 1 week remained. Fleet Admiral Zarthel stood on the command bridge of the Eternal Dominion, looking out at the greatest war fleet ever assembled. 900 ships stretched out before him in perfect formation, each one a masterpiece of Zephyrian engineering. The smallest vessels were larger than most species' biggest battleships. The largest dreadnoughts were like floating cities, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The Eternal Dominion itself was 5 kilometers long and had never lost a battle. Its plasma cannons could melt through any known armor. Its shields could deflect the radiation of a dying star. Its faster-than-light drive could jump the entire ship across half a solar system in seconds, appearing behind enemy lines before they knew what was happening. Zarthel was old, even by Zephyrian standards. His blue skin had faded to silver with age, and scars from 100 battles marked his forearms. He had commanded fleets when the humans were still fighting with metal swords on their single world. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, and he had helped them fall when the Empire demanded it. Status report. He commanded in the clicking language of his people. His second in command, General Vex High, approached with a data tablet. All ships report ready for combat, Admiral. Weapon systems are at full power. Shield generators are operating at maximum efficiency. Our intelligence networks have confirmed the location of the human fleet. How many ships do they have? Zarthel asked. 312 vessels, sir. Most appear to be converted cargo ships or small patrol craft. Our analysts believe they have fewer than 50 true warships. Zarthel's mandibles clicked in amusement. 300 ships against 900, and the human ships were tiny compared to his dreadnoughts. It was not even a fair fight. It was target practice. Have they attempted to recruit allies? The Admiral asked. No, sir. Several species offered to provide token support, but the humans refused all help. They claim they will handle this themselves. This puzzled Zarthul slightly. Most young species tried to form coalitions when facing the Empire. They begged older civilizations for help, offered trade agreements, or promised valuable resources in exchange for military support. The humans had done none of these things. Perhaps they have developed new technology? He suggested. Vexai shook his head. Our spies have been watching their research facilities for months. They are working on improved fusion reactors and more efficient life support systems. Nothing that could threaten us. Their most advanced weapons are still kinetic projectiles, metal slugs fired by magnetic rails. Zarthul had seen such weapons before. They were crude, but effective against unshielded targets. However, Zephyrian shields could stop anything moving at less than near light speed, and no known technology could accelerate solid matter to such velocities. "Show me the tactical analysis," the Admiral ordered. The main display screen lit up with a three-dimensional map of the Arcturus system, where the battle would take place. Red dots represented Zephyrian ships, while blue dots showed the estimated human positions. The computer had run the battle simulation 1,000 times with different variables. The result was always the same: complete Zephyrian victory in less than 5 hours. "The humans will likely try to use the asteroid belt for cover," Vexai explained, pointing to the rocky debris orbiting the system's star. "Our long-range sensors can track them easily, but they may hope to launch surprise attacks from behind the larger asteroids." "A reasonable strategy for primitives," Zarthul agreed. "But our jump drives allow us to appear anywhere in the system instantly. They cannot hide from us." The Admiral remembered his first major victory, 40 years ago, against the crystal cities of Andromescu Prime. The crystalline beings had been masters of light manipulation, able to bend laser beams and create invisible barriers. Their cities were beautiful works of art that sang in harmony with stellar radiation. Zarthul had been forced to destroy them all when they refused to surrender. Then there was the war against the Kepler Confederation, a coalition of water-dwelling species who built their cities in the clouds of gas giant planets. They had developed weapons that could control gravity itself, creating crushing fields that could flatten any normal ship. Zarthul had defeated them by using the Empire's reality anchors, devices that prevented local space from being manipulated. Every species thought they had some advantage that would save them. The crystal beings believed their light powers made them untouchable. The water dwellers thought their gravity weapons were unstoppable. The machine intelligence of Proxima Station was convinced its computational abilities gave it perfect tactical knowledge. They had all been wrong. What about human psychology? Zarthul asked. Will they fight to the end or surrender when they realize the situation is hopeless? Vexai consulted his files. Intelligence suggests they are unusually stubborn for such a young species. They have a history of fighting against overwhelming odds on their home world. However, they have never faced anything like the Imperial fleet. Logic suggests they will surrender after losing their first few ships. The Admiral's personal aide, a young officer named Coulter, approached nervously. Sir, some of the junior officers have been placing bets on the battle duration. Should I order them to stop? Zarthul waved a dismissive hand. Let them have their fun. A little gambling keeps morale high. What are the current odds? Most bets are on total victory within 4 hours, sir. A few optimists think the humans will surrender after the first exchange of fire. One officer bet that the humans won't show up at all. And the longest estimate? 6 hours, sir. But only because Ensign Mordak thinks the humans might try to run away and we'll have to chase them down. Zarthul smiled. His crews were confident, perhaps even overconfident, but that was better than fear. The Zephyrian military machine was built on the belief that they were superior to all other species. That belief had carried them to victory across half the galaxy. Signal all ships, he commanded. We jump to Arcturus in 1 hour. Battle stations in 30 minutes. Today, we add humanity to our long list of conquered species. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for what they assumed would be another routine conquest. Weapons were charged, shields were raised, and jump coordinates were calculated. The fleet had performed these preparations so many times that they could do it in their sleep. Zarthul looked out at his magnificent fleet one more time. Each ship represented decades of advanced research and construction. Each captain had decades of combat experience. Each crew member was trained from childhood to serve the Empire's military machine. The humans had existed in space for only 2 centuries. Their technology was primitive, their experience limited, and their numbers small. What could they possibly have that would threaten the pride of the Zephian Empire? "Jump in 10 minutes," announced the navigation officer. Zarthul settled into his command chair and activated his personal battle armor. The suit would protect him from enemy fire and enhance his already impressive physical abilities. He had worn it in dozens of battles and never been seriously injured. "All ships report ready," Admiral Vexai announced. "Execute jump," Zarthul commanded. The Eternal Dominion and her escort fleet vanished from normal space, traveling faster than light toward their date with destiny. Behind them, the main battle fleet began their own jump sequence, preparing to arrive just minutes later. None of them suspected that they were flying into the most one-sided battle in galactic history. But they were wrong about which side would be doing the slaughter. Admiral Sarah Chun floated in the zero-gravity chamber at the heart of the UHSV Indomitable, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of her fleet. 312 ships hung in the darkness of space, their running lights dimmed to avoid detection. To any observer, they looked like exactly what the Zephyrian intelligence reports claimed, a collection of converted cargo vessels and outdated patrol boats. The appearance was carefully crafted. Every human ship had been designed to look primitive and harmless. Their hulls were made of simple steel alloys that would show up on sensors as basic construction. Their weapons appeared to be nothing more than magnetic railguns and basic energy projectors. Even their power signatures had been tuned to match what enemy analysts expected from inferior technology. But appearances could be very deceiving. Dr. Elizabeth Hawking drifted through the chamber entrance, using handholds to navigate to Chun's position. The scientist was young for such an important role, barely 35 years old, but her mind had revolutionized human understanding of the universe. Where other species studied physics to understand what was possible, Elizabeth had spent her career finding ways to make the impossible happen. "Final systems check complete," she reported, her voice tight with nervous energy. "All reality manipulation devices are online and ready. The quantum field generators are operating within normal parameters." Chun nodded, though her expression remained worried. "How many ships do we risk losing to cascade failures?" "Computer models suggest between 5 and 15%, Elizabeth admitted. "The technology is still experimental. When we start bending the laws of physics, sometimes they bend back." The reality manipulation project had begun 18 months ago, when human scientists discovered something that other species had missed. The fundamental constants of the universe, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the behavior of atomic forces were not actually constant. They could be changed within small areas of space, if you knew exactly how to do it. Other civilizations had tried similar experiments over the millennia, but they always approached the problem like engineers trying to build a better machine. Humans approached it like philosophers, asking whether the machine needed to work the same way as everyone expected. "Dr. Martinez reports ready from the Newton's Revenge," Elizabeth continued, checking her tablet. "His kinetic amplification system tested successfully this morning. Dr. Okafor on the Einstein's folly says her entropy reversal field is Stable. Dr. Petrov aboard the Prometheus confirms that his nuclear force manipulation array is online. Each ship in the fleet carried a different type of reality manipulation device. Some could change how fast things moved. Others could alter the strength of atomic bonds. A few could even manipulate time itself within small areas. The devices had taken humanity's best scientists nearly 2 years to develop, and they violated at least a dozen galactic treaties that Earth had never signed. What about the psychological preparation? Chun asked. All crew members have completed the mental conditioning exercises, Elizabeth replied. They understand that they might see things that don't make sense during the battle. The human brain isn't really designed to observe violations of natural law, but the training should help them cope. Chun remembered her own preparation sessions. The scientists had shown her video recordings of the test weapons in action. Watching a solid steel block suddenly decide that gravity worked sideways had been deeply disturbing. Seeing atomic bonds spontaneously rearrange themselves into more efficient patterns had made her physically sick. The human mind expected the universe to follow certain rules, and breaking those rules was uncomfortable to witness, but the results were undeniable. A single human destroyer, using its reality manipulation device for less than 1 second, had turned a target asteroid into a perfectly spherical hole in space. The rock hadn't exploded or melted. It had simply stopped existing on a quantum level. Signal from long-range sensors, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from his station near the chamber wall. Zephyrian advance scouts are entering the system. Main fleet arrival estimated in 47 minutes. Chun activated her personal communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. Maintain radio silence and minimum power signatures. Begin final preparation of special weapon systems. Remember, we get one chance to surprise them. After that, the entire galaxy will know what we can do. The human fleet had been positioned carefully throughout the Arcturus system. Unlike traditional naval battles, where ships formed neat lines and fired at each other across empty space, this engagement would be fought in 3 dimensions around planets, moons, and asteroid fields. Each human ship had specific targets and precise timing instructions. Elizabeth pulled up a holographic display showing the quantum field readings throughout the system. The local space is stable, she announced. No unusual gravitational anomalies or energy discharges that might interfere with our equipment. Good, Chun replied. The last thing we need is for our own weapons to malfunction, because we picked a bad spot for the battle. The Admiral thought about the political implications of what they were about to do. Once the galaxy saw what human technology could accomplish, everything would change. Some species would demand immediate access to reality manipulation devices. Others would try to destroy humanity before the technology could spread. A few might attempt to negotiate for protection against other species who had similar capabilities. Admiral, called Chief Petty Officer Williams from the sensor station. I'm detecting massive hyperspace distortions. The main Zerian fleet is beginning their jump. Chun closed her eyes for a moment, running through the battle plan one final time. Her ships would wait until the enemy fleet was fully deployed before revealing their true nature. The Zephyrians would expect humanity to fight a traditional space battle using conventional weapons and tactics. They would be completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Dr. Hawking, how long can our ships maintain their reality fields once activated? Each device can operate for approximately 30 seconds before requiring a cooldown period, Elizabeth answered. After that, they'll need at least 10 minutes to recharge before another use. 30 seconds should be more than enough time. The test runs had shown that reality manipulation weapons worked almost instantaneously. The hard part wasn't destroying enemy ships, it was making sure you only destroyed the ships you were aiming at. All stations report ready, announced Lieutenant Commander Jackson. Chun opened a private channel to her senior captains. This is Admiral Chun to all ship commanders. In a few minutes, we're going to change the course of galactic history. The weapons you carry represent humanity's greatest scientific achievement, but they also represent our greatest responsibility. Use them wisely, use them precisely, and remember that the entire galaxy will judge our species based on what we do today. The responses came back quickly. Captain Rodriguez of the Prometheus simply said, "Ready to make some impossible things happen." Admiral, Captain Liu aboard the Newton's Revenge added, "Let's show them what humans can do." Captain Okonkwo on the Einstein's Folly was more direct. "Time to teach some bullies a lesson." Elizabeth checked her instruments one more time. Quantum field generators are operating at optimal efficiency. Reality anchors are in position to prevent our own weapons from affecting each other. Emergency containment systems are standing by in case something goes wrong. Chun nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. The Zephyrian fleet is about to arrive. Maintain current positions and prepare for Protocol Omega authorization. Remember, we're not just fighting for the Outer Rim worlds. We're fighting for every species that has ever been bullied by someone with bigger guns. Through the Indomitable's viewing ports, Chun could see the distant flashes of light that marked ships dropping out of hyperspace. The Zephyrian fleet was arriving in their standard formation, confident and unstoppable as always. They were about to learn that sometimes the impossible was just another word for something nobody had tried yet. The Zephyrian fleet materialized in the Arcturus system like a swarm of deadly stars. 900 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and their weapons already charging for battle. Fleet Admiral Zarthol smiled with satisfaction as his sensors confirmed what his intelligence reports had predicted. The human fleet was small, scattered, and completely outmatched. "Enemy vessels detected," announced his tactical officer. 312 ships, various sizes and configurations. They appear to be maintaining defensive positions throughout the system. Zarthol studied the holographic display showing both fleets. The humans had positioned their ships near asteroids and small moons, clearly hoping to use the cover when the shooting started. It was a reasonable strategy for primitives, but his advanced targeting systems could track enemy vessels through solid rock. "Signal all ships," he commanded. "Begin Standard Attack Pattern 7. Destroy the human vessels in order of size, largest first. Leave a few survivors so they can surrender and serve as examples to other species." The Zephyrian dreadnoughts began moving into attack formation, their massive plasma cannons swiveling toward the nearest human targets. Energy shields flickered to life around each ship, creating shimmering barriers that could deflect any known weapon. Faster-than-light jump drives warmed up, ready to teleport ships behind enemy lines for surprise attacks. Admiral Chun watched the enemy deployment from the bridge of the Indomitable. Everything was proceeding exactly as her tactical computers had predicted. The Zephyrians were confident, organized, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. "All ships," she broadcast on the encrypted human frequency. "Execute Protocol Omega. I repeat, execute Protocol Omega." Across the system, 312 human ships simultaneously activated devices that should not have been possible to build. Reality itself began to bend in ways that violated the fundamental assumptions of physics. The destroyer Prometheus, commanded by Captain Rodriguez, was the first ship to fire. Her target was a cluster of 17 Zephyrian dreadnoughts positioned near the system's largest asteroid. Instead of launching missiles or firing energy beams, the Prometheus activated its nuclear force manipulation array for exactly 0.7 seconds. The fundamental constant governing the strong nuclear force increased by a factor of 10,000 within a sphere, 50 kilometers in diameter. Every atom in the target zone suddenly found its nucleus impossibly stable, held together by forces that normally existed only in the hearts of neutron stars. The 17 Zephyrian dreadnoughts did not explode. They did not melt or collapse or break apart. They simply ceased to exist on a quantum level. Their matter converted into forms of energy that had no name in any language. What remained was a perfectly spherical void in space, so empty that it didn't even contain vacuum. Zarthel stared at his tactical display in shock. 17 dots representing his most powerful ships had simply vanished. No weapons fire had been detected. No explosions had been recorded. His vessels were simply gone. What happened to Battle Group 7? He demanded. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. All ships in that sector have stopped responding. Sensors show no debris, no energy signatures, no trace of what happened to them. Before Zarthel could respond, the human cruiser Newton's Revenge opened fire on a different section of his fleet. Captain Liu's ship didn't use exotic physics to eliminate matter. Instead, it convinced the universe that conservation of energy was more of a suggestion than an absolute law. The Newton's Revenge fired ordinary tungsten projectiles from conventional magnetic railguns. But as the shells traveled through space, their kinetic energy began increasing exponentially with each meter of distance covered. Physics normally demanded that such acceleration was impossible without additional energy input. But the ship's reality manipulation field politely asked the universe to look the other way for a few seconds. By the time the projectiles reached their targets, they were moving at velocities that should have been impossible for solid matter to achieve. The impacts generated energies comparable to stellar collapse events, but concentrated into areas no larger than a human fist. 40-3 Zephyrian ships died in an instant. Their advanced armor, designed to withstand plasma cannons and antimatter warheads, offered no protection against projectiles that hit with the force of colliding planets. The ships cracked open like eggs, spilling atmosphere and crew into the vacuum of space. Impossible! Zarthel screamed. No known technology can accelerate matter to those velocities. His communications officer was shouting into his headset, trying to coordinate a response from the surviving ships. All units, evasive maneuvers. Unknown weapon types detected. Request immediate tactical analysis. But there was no time for analysis. The human ship Einstein's Folly, under Captain Okonkwo's command, had already selected its next targets. Instead of manipulating force or energy, this vessel had found a way to temporarily reverse entropy within a localized area of space. Entropy, the universal tendency for organized systems to become disorganized over time, was one of the most fundamental laws of physics. It couldn't be reversed, only temporarily slowed or redirected. But humans had discovered that couldn't be reversed really meant nobody had figured out how to reverse it. Yet, 26 Zephyrian ships found their whole materials spontaneously organizing into more efficient crystalline structures. The new molecular arrangements were actually superior to the original designs, stronger, lighter, and more resistant to damage. Unfortunately, these improved structures occupied 17% less space than the original hulls. The ships imploded as their hulls suddenly became too small to contain their internal components. Reactors, crew quarters, weapon systems, and life support equipment were crushed together as the vessels collapsed into compact balls of highly organized matter across the system. Other human ships were revealing their own impossible capabilities. The frigate Tesla's Dream manipulated local gravitational fields, causing enemy ships to experience acceleration forces that turned their crews into paste against the bulkheads. The destroyer Hawking's paradox created temporary black holes that swallowed Zephyrian vessels whole before evaporating in bursts of radiation. The cruiser Darwin's Revenge convinced organic matter that evolution should work in reverse, causing enemy crew members to devolve into simpler life forms over the course of several seconds. "Admiral," shouted Zarthel's sensor officer, "we've lost 600 ships. 600 ships in less than 3 minutes." The Zephyrian fleet was disintegrating. Ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries were being destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have been possible to build. Experienced crews were dying in ways that violated everything they understood about physics and engineering. Some Zephyrian captains tried to fight back, launching missiles and firing plasma cannons at the human ships. But their conventional weapons seemed pathetically inadequate against enemies who could rewrite the laws of nature. Energy beams simply stopped existing when they entered the reality manipulation fields. Missiles forgot how to maintain their trajectory and drifted harmlessly past their targets. "All ships, emergency jump," Zarthel commanded. "Retreat to minimum safe distance." But his faster-than-light drives weren't responding properly. The human ship Schrengers CAD had deployed a device that made the concept of faster-than-light temporarily meaningless in local space. Velocity became a relative concept, distance became negotiable, and time forgot how to maintain a steady pace. Zarthel's remaining ships found themselves trapped in normal space, while humans continued their impossible assault. The Heisenberg's uncertainty made it impossible for Zephyrian weapons to accurately target anything, since the ship convinced the universe that position and momentum couldn't be measured simultaneously with any precision. The battle that was supposed to last 5 hours was over in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Of the 900 ships in the Zephyrian fleet, 17 managed to escape the system by hiding behind the gas giant's electromagnetic field and jumping to hyperspace before the human reality manipulation devices could affect them. 883 vessels were destroyed, disabled, or transformed into states that had no proper names. Zarthel found himself aboard one of the few surviving ships, staring at sensor readings that made no sense. The pride of the Zephyrian Empire had been eliminated by a species that wasn't supposed to have any advanced technology. His final transmission, broadcast on all frequencies as his ship fled the system, consisted of a single word in universal standard: impossible. But Admiral Chung, watching the debris field where the enemy fleet used to be, knew that impossible was just another word for something that hadn't been tried yet. And humans were very good at trying new things. The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of quantum entanglement. Long-range communication arrays carried the impossible report from one star system to another. The Zephyrian Empire's greatest fleet had been destroyed in less than 4 minutes by a species barely 2 centuries into galactic civilization. At first, most governments dismissed the reports as propaganda or sensor malfunctions. The Zephyrian Empire had been the dominant military power for over 1,000 years. Their technology was generations ahead of everyone else. Their ships were considered invincible. The idea that humans could defeat them was like claiming that children with wooden sticks had conquered an army of giants. But the evidence was overwhelming. Independent observers in nearby systems had detected the energy signatures of the battle. Automated recording stations had captured images of the debris field where the Zephyrian fleet used to exist. Most convincing of all, the 17 surviving Zephyrian ships had reached the Empire's home world and delivered their testimony to the High Command. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. 12 hours after the battle ended, the Great Chamber was packed with representatives from every major civilization. Species that had been enemies for centuries sat side by side, united by their shared terror of what humanity had demonstrated. Chancellor Moltar of the Regelian Republic called for immediate military action. "We must strike before they can refine their weapons further," he declared, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "If humans can eliminate the Zephyrian fleet so easily, what's to stop them from conquering us all?" Ambassador Cathora, one of the few Zephyrian officials to survive the disaster, supported this position. Her forearm shook as she addressed the assembly. "These humans have violated the most fundamental laws of physics. They possess weapons that should not be possible to create. They must be stopped before they decide to expand their territory." But other representatives argued for immediate surrender. The Centauran delegate, still pale from witnessing the destruction, suggested that resistance was futile. "If they can destroy 900 Zephyrian dreadnoughts in 4 minutes, what chance do the rest of us have? We should negotiate terms while we still can." The debate continued for hours without reaching any conclusion. Some species called for a united front against humanity. Others proposed sending diplomatic missions with offers of tribute and submission. A few suggested fleeing to distant galaxies where human weapons couldn't reach them. The discussion ended abruptly when Admiral Chun's image appeared on the main display screen. The transmission was coming from the human fleet, still positioned in the Arcturus system among the wreckage of their enemies. The image flickered slightly, suggesting that even human communication technology was affected by their reality manipulation devices. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Chun began, her voice calm despite the chaos her species had created. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Human Space Command. I understand that recent events have caused concern throughout the galaxy, and I wanted to address those concerns directly." The chamber fell silent. Even the most aggressive warhogs wanted to hear what humanity's military leader had to say. "First, let me clarify something that many of you seem to misunderstand," Chun continued. "Humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. We did not develop these weapons to build an empire or subjugate other species. We created them for one purpose: to protect innocent people from those who would harm them." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "The Zephyrian Empire made a choice when they enslaved 12 worlds and threatened to enslave more. They chose to believe that superior technology gave them the right to take whatever they wanted. They chose to ignore the suffering of billions of innocent people. They chose to threaten anyone who opposed them." Ambassador Cathora tried to interrupt, but Chun's transmission continued without acknowledging her. "The weapons you saw today came at tremendous cost to develop and deploy. Several of our ships suffered reality cascade failures that left their crews temporarily existing in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, Dr. Martinez aboard the Newtons. Revenge is still receiving medical treatment for quantum displacement syndrome. Chief Engineer Petrov on the Prometheus may never fully recover from exposure to altered nuclear forces." Chun's expression became more serious. "But we accepted those costs because the alternative was allowing the strong to prey upon the weak. For too long, this galaxy has operated under the assumption that advanced technology grants permission to dominate less developed species. That assumption was wrong, and we have proven it was wrong." The Admiral leaned forward slightly, her brown eyes seeming to look directly at each representative in the chamber. "Let me be very clear about humanity's position going forward. We will not tolerate aggressive expansion by any species against any other species. We will not allow the enslavement of innocent populations. We will not permit the strong to bully the weak simply because they have bigger guns or faster ships." Chancellor Moltar managed to activate his speaking privileges. "And who appointed humans as the guardians of galactic peace? What gives you the right to make such decisions for all of us?" Chun smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "The same thing that gave the Zephyrian Empire the right to conquer whoever they wanted. superior technology. The difference is that we plan to use our capabilities to protect people instead of enslaving them. The chamber erupted in angry voices as representatives argued among themselves. Some demanded to know the details of human weapons technology. Others called for immediate military alliances to counter the new threat. A few species quietly began calculating how quickly they could withdraw their forces from any potentially aggressive positions. Chun waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. I understand that many of you are afraid. Change is always frightening, especially when it happens as quickly as this. But I want you to consider something. For the first time in galactic history, the most powerful military force belongs to a species that doesn't want to rule over anyone. She gestured towards something off-screen, and the image shifted to show the human fleet. The ships looked as primitive as ever, but everyone now knew that appearances meant nothing when dealing with humanity. We came to the stars to explore and learn, not to conquer and subjugate. We've seen what happens when advanced civilizations use their power to dominate others, and we've decided that pattern ends now. Anyone who threatens innocent people will discover that humans are very, very good at making impossible things happen. The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council chamber in stunned silence. For several minutes, nobody spoke. The implications of what they had just heard were still sinking in. Finally, Ambassador Telvash of the Andromedan Federation stood up. He was an elderly being, old enough to remember when his own species had been conquered by the Zephyrians 3 centuries ago. Perhaps, he said slowly, this is not such a terrible thing. How many species have suffered under the rule of those with superior weapons? How many worlds have been enslaved by empires that believed might made right? But they could turn those weapons on us at any time, protested Chancellor Moltar. Yes, Telvash agreed. Just as the Zephyrians could have turned their weapons on us at any time for the past 1,000 years. The only difference is that humans seem more interested in protecting people than conquering them. Over the following days and weeks, the galaxy slowly began to adapt to its new reality. Some species attempted to develop their own reality manipulation technology, but discovered that human science was based on philosophical approaches that other civilizations had never considered. The humans had not just built better machines. They had found entirely new ways of thinking about the universe. Trade agreements with humanity became the most valuable diplomatic prizes in the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia suddenly found themselves cooperating to gain access to human protection. The slave markets that had operated in Zephyrian space were quietly shut down as local governments realized that humanity was serious about their anti-slavery position. Admiral Chun returned to Earth as a hero, but she spent her time working on new projects rather than enjoying her fame. Humanity had proven they could make impossible things happen when innocent people were threatened. Now they needed to figure out how to use that capability responsibly. The galaxy was no longer the same. For the first time in recorded history, the strongest military force belonged to a species that wanted to protect rather than conquer. It would take time for other civilizations to truly understand what that meant. But the age of empires built on superior weapons had ended, and somewhere in the debris field of the Arcturus system, pieces of Zephyrian ships continued to drift through space, serving as a reminder that impossible was just another word for something that humanity hadn't tried yet.